Italian excellence is recognized all over the world, with its ancient roots in a mix of polytechnic and popular culture, from crowded market squares to the Renaissance architecture of Bramante, from craftsman workshops to Leonardo's imaginative but mathematically precise machines, from factories spread into the rich and industrious Italian provinces to the chemistry of the Nobel Prize winner Giulio Natta. All have profoundly influenced the plastics industry and habits around the world. Made in Italy means continuous research between beauty and quality, design and technology, enhancement of the ancient knowledge of the territory, and the acquisition of the most stimulating international high-tech innovations. But nowadays, what is the thermometer of innovation in Italy? The excellence of Made in Italy has been severely tested by the pandemic crisis of the last year, and today it is essential for companies to plan new strategies to seize the opportunities that allow them a quick restart and to get up stronger than before. An essential awareness for the Italian government, which with the current PNRR, the National Recovery Plan, aims to create and manage a positive process of development, reforms, and modernization of the country's system. Despite this, it is still unusual to consider private enterprise an innovative force, while the state is an inertial force. How important is the role of the state for the innovation ecosystem, and how can it act as a dynamic engine?
First of all, I must say that the contrast between business and the state is totally anachronistic by now. The state needs businesses to give work and help develop the country. Businesses also need the state because in a climate of global competition, a positive ecosystem for businesses has to be created so that they can do their jobs as entrepreneurs as well as possible, while being given the incentives through whatever needed to do business. The Transition 4.0 plan is something we're banking on. It comes from way back. Industry 4.0 has shown us that funding businesses and digitalizing them is the right thing to do right now. This is why we have chosen to invest so much in the digital transition, in the development of new technologies in the world of business, and therefore in the evolution of business and the companies themselves, but also in the training of workers. This is truly a favorable moment for our country, also because of our several successes in the international scene, not least the sporting ones, of course, which make us particularly proud. Our ability to count on European and international forums in general and leadership of the G20 are all elements that obviously help the soft power linked to the image of our country. We have an internationalization fund to strengthen the Made in Italy brand, currently amounting to $1.6 billion. And the National Recovery and Resilience Plan has funds that are earmarked for both protection and strengthening the Made in Italy brand and our ability to stay on international markets. One of the crucial issues is to ensure the infrastructure is everywhere, so that the public and businesses can have equal access to digital services. This is naturally linked to the theme of public administration, digital identity, and therefore access to services linked to the public administration, which are in turn linked to the infrastructure of the country. In our National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have identified 2 cross-sector issues that cut across all individual efforts, from health to businesses through public administration, and that relate to women and youth. We know that young people and women were already experiencing greater difficulties in our country due to the difficulty of reconciling family life and work, for example. We know that they have suffered particularly from the COVID crisis because young people and women in particular lost their jobs at the start of the pandemic, losing purchasing power and even social relations. That is why we identified young people and women as priority recipients of the entire National Recovery and Resilience Plan. And I believe that this positively characterizes the commitment to recovery by both the government and the entire country. We don't want to restore what was there before. We want a new model of development that is truly inclusive, including from the standpoint of gender equality.
A new development model is the result of human and social capital, which, strengthened by traditional capital, will make start and grow successful Italian companies. The industries of the future, in order to win the challenges of our times, will have to do it together in a cohesive and open way.
Confindustria, by its nature, is a consortium of companies. It is in the companies operating in Italy that decided to create their own representation to bring the requests of company to the level of various decision makers or various stakeholders, which can be national or international.
Nazionali e stakeholder internazionali.
We are a manufacturing country, and our economy is based on production and exports, as well as the domestic market, of course.
Mercato interno. Per competere nelle
To
esportazioni,
compete in exports, we have to increase the added value in our goods.
nelle nostre merci. Per poter incrementare
In order to increase the added value and to increase the level of automation used for manufacturing, to increase the quality, to increase the innovation,
l'innovazione, non possiamo fare altro che investire.
we have to invest in R&D and increase that share of the intangible benefits contained in our products and that make us competitive.
L'opinione non si
Opinion is no longer formed only at the level of the Italian government nowadays, but the European system clearly has a strong influence in the choice of priorities.
Bruxelles rappresenta il porto
Brussels represents the port of arrival, but it is certainly a point, a hub, where the requests and priorities of the Italian economic system and obviously of the companies operating in Italy are brought.
Questo è un processo perché
This is a process because this process will be even more closely integrated at the level of global choices in the future.
l'accordo più o meno
The agreement, more or less, that is being reached at the global level on CO2 emissions only represents a point, a goal that we wish to
si
reach.
vuole competere, si vuole arrivare, in cui l'Europa
Europe will have to decide how and with what technologies it wants to implement that strategy, and Italy in turn will have to choose how to compete in Europe or how to become part of the European supply chains with which to compete on a global level.
le start-up
Startups are the businesses of the future, so Confindustria has various relationships with the businesses of the future. Firstly, they are potential relationships. One day they will be companies that form part of Confindustria, and they will certainly be very successful companies. Secondly, the main goal or part of the main investments by startups, and especially industrial startups, because we are talking about industry and also those that offer innovative services, mainly web companies, is investing into research and development.
all'interno dei loro principali investimenti, l'investimento di ricerca e sviluppo. Quindi il modello di innovazione
Therefore, the pattern of innovation is changing even within the most well-established businesses.
breakthrough, come viene definita, cioè
A lot of very innovative breakthrough innovation no longer happens inside the walls, known as intramuros of businesses, but happens outside the businesses. So even big businesses need to be aware of the developments in the world of startups. One of the big advantages of the Recovery Fund for our country is that it has a fixed time frame. So it's just a few years, 5 to 6, depending on how we read it,
a seconda di come possiamo leggerlo, se possa venire
which may possibly be extended. And therefore, it will force the system. And we have to define the system to make quick decisions.
The ambitious challenges planned by the public and the aims of the industrial world require research and development activities, technological strengthening, and innovation actions. Italy wants to be a superpower of the ecological transition.
Enea is the second biggest research center in Italy after CNR, the National Research Council, and has 13 research centers scattered throughout the country with about 2,600 employees. It is divided into 4 main departments: the Department of Nuclear Fusion and Safety, the Department of Energy Technologies and Renewable Sources, the Department of Energy Efficiency, and then the Department where I work, which is the Productive and Territorial Systems Sustainability Department. As far as my laboratory is concerned, We deal with all methodological aspects. By that I mean we create evaluation models and tools that can also measure the circular economy. And so we have developed industrial symbiosis projects. We have know-how with regard to environmental reporting and environmental labels. We follow the REACH regulations and its application in Italy, and we explore the possibility of creating scenarios of using recycling both raw materials and secondary raw materials that come from new technologies. For the UNI Commission, we can say that the UNI-CT 057 operates in parallel on two levels. On the one hand, there is national standardization. On the other, there is ISO standardization. In example, international standardization. The two activities go in hand, and the ISO level, hence the international standard. We are developing 4 standards. One is the general standard on the circular economy framework, that is to say, what the language is. The second is on the business model for the circular economy. The third standard measures the circular economy, and the fourth relates to the best practices. We talk about circular economy, but in order to ensure that the circular economy is not just narrated, it must also be measured. And in fact, all the obligations set out through the policies in some way must be somehow measured. Because then we have to understand whether the commitments made, the tools used to reach certain objectives are effective or not, then possibly take corrective action, actions to improve them, and so on. It is very important to measure. Clear measurements form the basis for the achievement of goals.
Fondamentale misurare. La misurazione chiaramente è alla base di ogni raggiungimento di un obiettivo. Ci sono delle sfide aperte.
There are still very important challenges to deal with, including the challenge of a Green Deal. In our department in particular, we focus on a part of circular economy, an example, the recovery of resources, assigning value at all levels with an eye to the entire supply chain and the entire value chain, so the whole chain, because the idea of circular economy offers room for improvement, starting from the design of products up to the end-of-life management. Enea can have and must have an important role in accompanying the industrial system and the public administration system towards the change of model.
Cambiamento di modello.
In Italy, art fell in love with industry, and that is why industry is a cultural fact. The best expression of this union is named industrial design.
La scuola del design.
The School of Design was established in Milan in 1993 when the Politecnico University decided to start a degree course specifically dedicated to industrial design. It was established in Milan because there was already a great culture there, a great culture of design due to the territory, at the level of production, in the sense that the great designers, the great masters of design were in Milan.
I grandi maestri del design erano proprio a Milano.
The Politecnico itself already contained these two souls. I mean the actual creative artistic part that characterizes the world of architecture and the technical scientific part that characterizes the world of engineering.
Dell'ingegneria e quello che
What used to be the design course, which then over the years became a real design school at the Politecnico, has always presented itself as bridging of the gap between these two souls. The School of Design at the Politecnico has great international recognition, and this is something that it has always built on, both with its relationships with other schools and in other contexts, especially with the research that is carried out. One of the pillars of its success is having worked for so many years with this outlook. One thing we noticed was that the designers, and therefore today's professionals, had begun to no longer want to choose ready-made materials, but to try and decide what would be the best material to use, and even to design new materials, to think them up, create them, and sometimes even produce them.
e a volte appunto arrivare addirittura a produrli. Questo è
That's the reason for the acronym DIY, or Do It Yourself. DIY materials that have basically been created as part of the designer's own work. I mean, basically designers began to want to design materials just as they used to design objects up to recently, and now want to design the materials best suited to their projects themselves.
All'interno del nostro gruppo
In our research group, we carry out research on the topics of materials and emerging technologies through consulting, masters these and research projects. Obviously, all the research we carry out is based on the opportunities and needs that result from the observation and interpretation of the market and the world of industry. Startups, companies, and professionals are often directly involved in the research through projects and internships, and also co-tutoring or co-supervision of master's or doctoral thesis. In this way, with these activities, the alliance between academia and industry is consolidated and strengthened.
The Made in Italy is also known for the 4 A's: arredamento, furniture; automazione, automation; abbigliamento, clothing; alimentare, food. The starting point is a small Italian enterprise that creates products that become bestsellers and are present in international design museums, receiving awards all over the world, confirming its vocation to be innovative, but also to the protection of the invention.
Right from the start, my dad always taught us to look ahead, to see the world, to observe and to be curious so that we could offer innovative products to the public that would be useful in their day-to-day lives.
Utili alla gente nella vita comune. Ovviamente
As we all know, the research stage is obviously very expensive and companies need protection. The only instrument of protection at intellectual level is the patent.
è il brevetto. Per mio papà la cosa era
This was so important to my father that he called the company Kaimi Patents, meaning the patents of Kaimi. Nowadays, when we have to patent something, we have to think about a global level, planning the patents strategically so that they can work all over the world. Kaimi works with internationally renowned designers as well as with emerging young people. We don't take much notice of the differences, and the designers act as our eyes since they are the ones who see how the world is made. A good designer must have the ability to spur companies to look towards the future, to look towards new territories, and even to take chances. Open Lab is a project that was established in 2019 following the decision of the grandchildren to join the company. The project took a different turn. It was redesigned to transform a technology hub into a technology hub of excellence that could create a technological gap, also with respect to its competitors.
tecnologico anche rispetto ai competitor.
We currently have a reverberation chamber which is connected to a semi-anechoic chamber shielded from electromagnetic waves by a Faraday cage, an excellent device.
Eccellenza. Abbiamo
We also have a Habitat Lab, which is a room where you can see sound. Sound has these characteristics that you can't see, so the phenomena related to acoustics or noise escape us to a large extent. You can see exactly what sound is and where it is moving in that room in real time. Then there's a lab where you can simply try sound by ear.
molto caro.
Environmental sustainability is a topic that is very dear to us and that we have been dealing with as normal practice in our company for about 30 years now. We also believe that there is a thing called social sustainability, which is something else. We believe that a company that does not give anything back to the territory, or in any case, does not bring any benefit to society, is unsustainable. One way to give back part of what has been given by the territory was to decide, by decision of the family, to make all the laboratories available up to 50% of the time for studies.
Per studi che vengono dati in questo.
In this case, they are given in non-profit mode, so free of charge, as long as the studies carried out have an impact on society in terms of improving the psychological and physical well-being of people in our own way. We think this is sustainability too.
Italy boasts a very long tradition of crafts, continuing to exist in the work of those who every day search for the best raw materials, the most effective and sustainable resources, the most innovative styles, and use all the teachings of the past to bequeath the great products made in Italy.
Ecco qui che è nato il Riva.
This is where the Riva Center was established. The Riva Center contains a showroom and also a museum with about 12,000 pieces,
Con circa 12.000 pezzi. Che va
some dating back to 1750. There is also the Pangea Lab, representing both the present and the future, and containing a large table that was presented at the 2015 Expo in Milan.
a Milano e invece
There is also a Xylotech and a Materiotech that describes manufacturing companies that form part of our system, from the upholsterer to the turner and everything in between.
tornitore, tutto il resto.
And then 1,000 types of wood that come from all over the world. At that time, we always made custom-made furniture. Then we entered the world of retail and started to include various collections designed by Mario Motta, Pini Farina, Renzo Piano, Terry Duan, Michele De Lucchi, and another 130 designers. I required them to work with certain quality standards, in example, from the inside out. We never use chipboard. There is no formaldehyde. For us, drawers have dovetail joints and all finishings are in natural oil. My grandfather's tradition with a modern twist, which is very important. So I produce, and there is a little nameplate, and I think that this little nameplate will become strong, let's say in 50 years. And in 50 years, when I will no longer be here, they will say, this is a product made by Riva.
Forse
Probably, maybe, I don't feel great at all. I just feel like a carpenter. People can meet up at the Pangea Lab too. There are 114 seats, so they also hold conferences.
ci fanno convegni.
People who arrive see 100 different companies, some granite, marble, a few books by great designers, writers, and then most importantly, these approximately 1,000 wooden pieces. Lots of types of wood from all around the world. And I just hope that a lot of culture, a lot of stuff is passed on.
Che venga tramandato.
But if you can't measure it, then you can't prove it, is a rule to be applied also to Italian design products, which in addition to aesthetics and functionality, must be able to guarantee safety, resistance, durability, and circularity.
Il CATAS è nato nel...
CATAS was established in 1969 at the initiative of the Chamber of Commerce of Udine. The Chamber of Commerce had decided to give technical support to companies in the area that have a strong association with wood and furniture.
legno e verso l'arredo. I servizi
The services we offer include testing services, therefore we carry out chemical analysis from raw materials, glues, paints, panels, plastic materials to finished products,
arriviamo
testing chairs, tables, desks, container furnitures, and etc.
le sedie, i tavoli, le scrivanie, i mobili contenitori, eccetera. Tutto questo sempre per esigenze
This is always due to increasingly strict requirements regarding both product safety and durability.
normative nazionali sono veramente
National regulations from the basis on which we operate, and we follow the regulations on the national and international panels, since this gives us the opportunity to both be ready, prepared for the changes in these technical standards, and also to give support to companies so as to be able to inform them in advance of what the developments will be in these areas.
le evoluzioni appunto in questi ambiti. Allora, la certificazione di Proto è un altro
Then proto certification is another service that we offer. In this case, we don't just test the product and then provide a test result, but we go ourselves to take samples from the companies, checking the production cycle.
il ciclo produttivo, quindi l'azienda certificata poi
Therefore, the certified company can boast a quality mark issued by our
marchi
institute.
che rilasciamo c'è anche questo
The quality marks that we issue include a new type of the Made in Italy one, if we want to call it like that.
in Italia.
That both confirms that the product is made in Italy, so we check that using auditing procedures to ensure that this is actually true, as well as the fundamental aspect that the product is safe and
In
durable.
Italy significa
So made in Italy means yes, made in Italy, but also that it is a quality product.
il nostro lavoro
However, I would like to add that our work includes this concept of ecology, since the fact that we work with materials free of hazardous substances, and the fact that through our tests, a product can be more durable means that there is also an ecological aspect.
Oggi si va verso
Today, there is a move toward greater attention to environmental stewardship. In fact, a few months ago, we introduced a new service that we offer to companies,
aziende
the study of the life cycle.
dello studio del ciclo di vita. Quindi si
So, we measure all the environmental impacts that a raw material and a finished product has on the environment, starting from the raw material and ending with its disposal.
The Made in Italy is not only the brand and design excellence, but it applies very well to high technology, such as the world leadership of machine tools. Leonardo da Vinci, on the other hand, was a sublime painter, but also an extraordinary and creative engineer and machine maker.
The history of the Biesi Group started in 1969 from an idea by my father in the woodworking machinery sector. Obviously, it has always been characterized by the figure of my father as an innovator, especially in that period of mechanical machines for woodworking. Then, in the 1990s, the group expanded and made acquisitions and then mergers so that it could offer a complete service, all relating to woodworking machines. And at the same time, the establishment and application of woodworking technology also to glass and then to marble. Italian companies that are established from an entrepreneurial idea and that grow like Biesi, becoming a small multinational company, have generally focused strongly on internal resources and carry out innovation internally, choosing designers, technicians, and product managers. Clearly, the change in the world and the direction of open innovation made us think that maybe it was necessary to be a little more open, to open our doors and start to look outside, understand where there are initiatives, ideas, startups, any kind of inspiration to innovate, to create business innovations. So we put this into a process that we called Open Eye, that became an actual process from the initial project. We are now continuously feeding it, trying to make this idea of open innovation become company culture even though it was not really practiced before. We hope to have increasingly intelligent people before the machines. If we have a lot of intelligent people who know a lot of things, we can probably make the machines more intelligent. Machines now already do a lot of things and they do them automatically. But clearly the direction we are heading in is to increasingly equip them with sensors, to equip them with artificial intelligence algorithms, to allow operators to work in an increasingly simple way with the help of tools that are available with the machines. Clearly, this thing is not only technical, it is also a business opportunity. So Biesi, for example, that has started an innovative project called Sophia Connecting LOT Machines, has opened a new revenue channel that allows us to offer services to customers that were not available before and that are available precisely because the machines are connected. In my opinion, it is a technological challenge where companies have to be recognized on a technological basis, which is not just simple digitalization, because it's going to be a huge change. But I see this as a great opportunity because those who don't adapt will be out of the market. We are adapting.
Improving the well-being of people and the planet means helping to consume less and better, improving the quality, safety, and sustainability of industrial products and processes.
In order to put our particular enterprise into context, we have to start from the territory, and the history of this territory is characterized by 1,000 years of monks and sharecroppers, and the enterprises that were established as a consequence of this kind of background. The desire for redemption, for growth, for development also lies at the heart of a situation like ours, like so many others. Perhaps it represents one of the last entrepreneurs of peasant origin who developed a business starting from 1967 till 68. It is a workshop. The great is up to the others to determine. However, it is definitely rich in skills and experience since it originated from this very desire to do something and leave things better than they were found. It is a teaching that comes to us from monks or sharecroppers because they cultivated their surroundings and left them better than they found them. So this workshop of ecological transition, which is now called ecological transition, is really nothing more than doing something to consume less and consume better.
Consumare meno e consumare meglio.
Per migliorare, inevitabilmente...
Inevitably, to improve, you have to measure, which is why measurement is our greatest skill. This expertise is applied across the board in different areas from mobility. Working with leading manufacturers of train, airplanes, cars, and their components to build less polluting and safer vehicles. From the environment to energy to minimize pollution as much as possible. And build zero-impact buildings. To wellness, wellness in the home. Think of home appliances, but also in the hospital field.
Nell'ambito ospedaliero.
Working with leading hospitals in the world for the creation of technological solutions that allow a safer and higher quality care process.
E di qualità. Qui ne abbiamo un esempio.
We have an example of this in the form of the Epoteca robot, a technology-driven innovation that enables sterile, injectable drugs to be prepared.
Young people are a little more enterprising because they are not afraid to make mistakes and so take more risks. This, in a company that innovates on a daily basis, is seen as a competitive advantage. In the eyes of large customers, having young companies and therefore young people in the company is a sign of a great future. Over the years, we have launched projects, first in the territory, then expanding within the territory to have children from elementary and middle schools and young people who then from high school can come into contact with the company on a pathway that we call convergence and not vocational studies. You have to converge towards work. You go through training to figure out what is you're passionate about. In 2018, we had our 50th anniversary as a company and we got all our kids to imagine the next 50 years. So on alternative evenings in small groups, the question was, what is your dream for the next 50 years of the company? This gave rise to a small booklet, and then the theme of 2068 gave the name to our bridge, which is a signal to the future.
Che è un segnale verso il futuro.
Technology, young researchers, social inclusion. Can these be the ingredients for an entrepreneurial project?
Limix nasce principalmente...
Limix was established mainly through a chance meeting I had with Dario Corona, the current CEO of Limix. At university, we then started talking about inertial sensors and their possible applications.
Applicazioni. È venuta fuori
the application of translating gestures by sensing the hand with inertial motion sensors came up. Talking Hands is a wearable device. It is totally sensorized, and we have several inertial sensors on both the hand and the forearm, and soon we will have the finished product available that we will also have inertial sensors for the fingers.
Sulla parte delle dita. E grazie a questi
Thanks to these sensors, through which we continuously collect data and process it on the video controller on the forearm,
l'avambraccio,
we can understand what gesture the user is making. All of this data will be then sent via Bluetooth to a smartphone.
Ad uno smartphone.
And the smartphone will have a built-in gesture recognition algorithm that will translate the gesture into voice using the smartphone's own voice synthesizer.
Ciao.
Hi, I'm Francesco. The main user we are testing the device with are nonverbal autistic children and people who have had a stroke and have aphasia or ataxia.
E soffrono di afasia o aprasia.
Potatoes. Then we'll make cookies.
L'idea è di usare questo
The idea is to use this device as a communicator, and we are now starting research. So it is all a preliminary phase to see if this tool can also be rehabilitative. Sandwich. Great.
Ci sono proprio dei fondi
There are specific funds at both the European Union and regional levels that have been indispensable for the project to continue.
indispensabili per il proseguimento del progetto. E questi progetti
These are projects with a strong social impact, and when we talk especially about hardware and medical devices, have a much longer development period than an app or a website might have, so you don't monetize immediately.
Milan has always been a city of fashion, a sector that has profoundly changed in the last 40 years. Now, it is required to be sustainable and innovative. This means new business models and financial instruments.
Startup
Bootcamp was established in Milan in 2019 since Italy has proven itself to be a country that is ready to welcome this kind of innovation related to the world of startups. In fact, we Italians have a gene in our DNA that is linked to what we once called tradition, but which today has become innovation.
Noi siamo arrivati 3 anni fa in Italia.
When it was launched 3 years ago in Italy, we realized that conditions were finally right to bring a startup accelerator like ours here in Milan, and we started from there. Why fashion tech? Because in Italy we have the most important ecosystem in the world concentrated in a radius of 200 kilometers.
Il nostro lavoro?
Our job is to search the world for Italian and international startups that propose new business models to support companies, including technological, brand, and textile, that help them evolve on this train that is speeding along very quickly in tandem with the world of technology.
Una velocità incredibile legata al mondo della tecnologia. Sono molto fiero, contento.
I'm very proud and happy for our economy. Having a partner that represents the Italian state like the Cassa Depositi e Prestiti Bank that decided to invest in a new vision of a new market, in a new economy, which is the world of startups, is what will be important for the future of our country.
Con Cassa Depositi e Prestiti.
We launched 2 other new programs with Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, one in the world of fintech. We all know about the financial revolution that is taking place, and another new program is the world of sport tech. Together, we want to create a future that reward startups only when they can help companies grow together. This is how we see things.
Questo è il nostro modo di vedere le cose.
Startups plus companies equate to a future of growth through innovation. The association is the network, what we now call the network of connection between various companies. We used to have the mentality of each one doing their own thing and then trying to grow. Today, young people have a mentality that encourages discussion and understanding what the problems are and perhaps tackling them together to grow. We are transferring this concept in the Young Business Entrepreneur Group of Federlegno Arredo. Imagine that we have created a program, a format which is called Innovatur 4.0, in which we take young entrepreneurs to see what are the technological realities of other sectors, because this is the only way that young people will understand how to create the company of the future.
L'azienda del futuro.
Taste, art, sustainability. How can all these aspects coexist in a cup of coffee?
Il Caffè nei suoi 88 anni.
In its 88 years of history, Il Caffè has developed 3 radical innovations out of the 7 related to the world of coffee. It invented pressurization, a method to preserve coffee over the long term and increase the aromas that remain inside the coffee itself. The high-pressure machine to make espresso called Ileta, and finally the first coffee pod, which is a single-portion system to facilitate the percolation of espresso coffee at home. These radical innovations allowed us to approach the market by being able to guarantee quality in delivery all over the world, because we sell to over 144 countries, have shelf life of up to 3 years or even more, and therefore transfer the quality of our product everywhere at any time at the discretion of our consumers. Illy Café was one of the first companies in the coffee world to create its own laboratory managed by Mr. Ernesto Illy himself. Today we have Aroma Lab, a laboratory located in the research area of Trieste that deals with the study of aroma and taste of coffee. On the other hand, Sensory Lab deals with the sensory analysis of both the chemical physical element and the enjoyment of coffee. So we are starting to understand the psychology of tasting. There is also the Tech Lab that takes all the knowledge gleaned by the other two labs and uses it to improve our product, our processes, and create new coffee-based recipes. These laboratories work in synergy with each other, often in cooperation with Italian and foreign universities in order to create the synergy that comes from the knowledge of the complex system of coffee. Imagine that roasted coffee contains more than 1,500 molecules in its main transformations, which has to be done since coffee cannot be used as is, but has to be transformed. The Illy Sustainability Framework has to combine the fight against climate change with all the actions needed to reduce the impacts on the processes, products, and everything that regards production-related activities, since we also consider the production of green coffee, intrinsic to our supply chain. Sustainability becomes a strategic element for the company, intended as a company that has to create value for all its profit stakeholders, create direct value for the quality of product, create value in the best practices implemented by producers or our suppliers, meaning the improvement in performance or the reduction of the environmental impacts, optimization of social impacts, creation of value that can be for the local communities, specialist communities like the world of green tea and coffee, the community of baristas, or the community of artists.
Verde, oppure le comunità dei baristi, la comunità degli artisti.
Today, we have awarded more than 1,500 producers. In all these years, we have managed to transfer the expertise and knowledge of producing a quality coffee with its intrinsic value. This is also because Illy always paid a premium price for its coffee, as it demanded a certain quality, to the extent that around 1994-1995, someone mentioned that the world of Brazilian coffee had evolved thanks to the work of Illy Café.
Italy is a champion of good cuisine, but we need to rethink the food of the future. Thanks to the development and application of microorganisms, it is possible to better understand the properties, mechanisms, and effects of probiotic foods on human and animal health.
We have created the spin-off Symbiotech that deals with the study of the microorganisms of these bacteria that coexist with our body. They are invisible actors, but are very important in all our physiological functions, and therefore getting to know them and learning how to exploit their metabolic potential is essential to ensuring that the body is kept healthy. Probiotic is a word derived from the Greek word probios, which means pro-life.
Microrganismi vivi che, se somministrati in quantità adeguata, conferiscono un effetto benefico alla salute dell'ospite. Quali sono questi?
What are the benefits? Obviously, the benefit that is most recognized is the one at the intestinal level, because that is where they mostly come from. So, they help to improve everything involved in intestinal performance. But they are also very useful at the systemic level, because it has now been shown how probiotics can help to enhance the immune system, for example. The product can be made as a nutritional supplement, like a food supplement, or probiotics can be included in foods which become functional foods. Symbiotech laboratories are equipped with specific departments to perform all these functions. We have a microbiology laboratory where all the isolation and characterization studies are carried out, so mainly in vitro studies. We have also laboratories for cell cultures, where we explore the ability of probiotics to adhere to different cell lines, and we have a laboratory that was recently set up for next-generation sequencing. This is very important because it will then be the future of probiotics. In order to carry out the whole research phase in the best possible way, the collaboration of universities is very important, and industrial collaborations are also very interesting and important. That's why we have collaborated with an industrial partner, Clerically Sacco, since our establishment. It allows us to combine scientific research with a commercial connotation that is often difficult to acquire by those who have always worked in the field of research.
Open innovation, sustainability, and beauty are the drivers for Italian manufacturing. The change of paradigm must be taken through the sharing of ideas among all players.
Manifattura is an innovative startup with a mission to be a facilitator for all those organizations that wish to employ innovation in their development. More especially, we are dedicated to exploring the issues involved in Industry 4.0 and the circular economy, applying all the tools and methods of open innovation. Innovation is at the heart of Manifattura. And this momentum is what we try to convey to our customers and partners. This means that when we go to apply innovation in a business process, it has to be daily, methodical, and this means applying it to both the area of research and development, as well as the business processes. In example, human resources, training, design, production, sales, and marketing.
Alla progettazione, alla produzione, alla vendita, al marketing. E poi devono essere anche
They must also include the concept of beauty, which is one of the values that distinguishes us Italians, the Made in Italy brand.
Distingue il Made in Italy, che non vuol dire semplicemente
This does not simply mean aesthetics, but also well-being, or as the Brazilians say, o bem-estar, which is the quality of life. In order for each person, each individual, each company or country to be successful and foster competitive innovation, they must always consider well-being as a priority and therefore beauty.
Il benessere come priorità e quindi la bellezza.
I believe that it is important for women to contribute because they offer a complementary vision to the male vision. And this complementarity adds value to products and services, especially when we talk about innovation.
Prodotti e ai servizi, soprattutto quando parliamo appunto di innovazione.
Networking and collaborating with partners with whom you do innovation, in my opinion, is key. We see this every day when we carry out our projects, including projects such as scouting or acceleration of startups, or the creation of laboratories of innovative materials, for example. In any case, in all these projects, what we have to do is to collaborate with those who are the players who help us in the realization of these projects, trying firstly to understand the various needs and requirements, and then customizing the project and start looking for the most appropriate parties from among our partners to then carry out to the various innovation projects. This means that the relationships with these partners are really essential.
Italy does not only create excellence with small businesses, but also large international companies are able to bring innovation in an open, flexible way with commitment in the energy transition towards a model of sustainable development, which leaves no one behind to build together a better future. From the union of innovation and sustainability, Open Innovability is born.
We were inspired by nature, and just as every 2 hours we change the skin of our lips to survive, every 24 days or so we change our entire skin to survive, and every 15 years or so we change 99.9% of all our cells, including heart, liver, brain, to survive. Companies must constantly change to survive. Technologies change, markets change, competitive dynamics change. Either the company changes or the company dies. To innovate, we need input from the best startups, but the best startups aren't necessarily around the corner, so we need physical hubs where we can find the best startups. We identify the challenges in the company, the technological or social or business challenges, and then we go to the innovation centers that we have in the world and go to look for the best startups. We meet with them by doing pitch days where they lay out possible solutions to the challenges we have. We then select the ones we want to work with, and then we do the projects. If the projects are successful, we go to work all over the world with those startups.
Andiamo a lavorare in tutto il mondo con quelle startup.
I'll give you some numbers. About 10,000 startups analyzed in the last 5 years, about 900 projects done, and in the end, we helped over 100 of these startups to go worldwide. We closed everything we had with fossil-fired power generation in the past and made agreements with various governments to completely exit from fossil-fired fuel generation because this is what respects the environment. Today, it seems easy. But when we decide to take the route in 2014, thanks to the enlightened vision of our CEO, the engineer Mr. Starassi, many people thought we were out of our minds. Because in 2014, renewables had higher costs in terms of generation than fossil fuels had. And here you have the very role of innovation. Thanks to our innovation, we have decreased the cost of renewable generations by 60%. And what used to be environmentally sustainable renewable generation, but wasn't sustainable on the business side, has now become sustainable on the business side as well. A few years ago, I codified the concept of innovation in a formula with Ivan Ortenzi, who says that the value of innovation is the product of 3 factors: creativity, in example, the ability to invent new things, execution, and appeal. So I must have the ability to create, to invent, to be a poet regarding processes, products, services, customer experiences, but also the ability to be a poet in realizing these new things, always aiming at the appeal. In example, the ability to respond to a concrete need of the customers.
Rispondere a un bisogno concreto dei clienti.
From Mucha to Brazil via Berkeley, with one mission: to reduce the number of malaria victims worldwide.
The spin-off
BioVec Block originated from research carried out in the laboratory by myself and 3 other co-founders, and it was very far-sighted for the professor we were working with and the University of Camerino to ask us to translate the research, let's say, into a market product. This is how BioVec Block was established. It is a spin-off of the University of Camerino, which is focused on developing natural solutions against disease-transmitting mosquitoes. To date, we have 2 patents filed in the United States and extended to several countries worldwide, and this is our core business, which is represented by the male-sterilizing tiger mosquito. Basically, we produce males capable of sterilizing the females they mate with in the environment on a large scale through a completely natural method without the use of pesticides. It is based on a bacterium that is harmless to both humans and the environment since it is present in several insects, and it is the Wolbachia bacterium. We infect our mosquito nets with this completely harmless bacterium, and this bacterium can make these males sterilize the females with whom they mate. So through this mating, the male is able to sterilize the females, reducing the mosquito population. At the moment, we have a commercial agreement with Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay to extend this type of approach in those countries, both for the patents and for the sterilizing male, because we are trying to create a bridge with Brazil and other countries in South America where the mosquito is a very important socio-sanitary issue. First of all, awards have been crucial for us just to get important visibility that has attracted several investors between 2016 and now. Obviously, what we need is a greater resonance to increasingly involve more investors and specialists in this area that is highly innovative and very disruptive. This is a biofactory that can arrive at about 2 million males per week, and the goal is to create various biofactories both in Italy and places where the mosquito poses an important threat. So, for example, all those countries on the Mediterranean coast where the tiger mosquito is present, and of course we are working in South America where the mosquito is a carrier of important diseases.
The rich history of the Italian university, the oldest in the world, expresses an essence capable of evolving and facing the challenges of time, always remaining faithful to itself, to its values, to its long tradition. The University of Camerino is an example of this history, but also the symbol of resilience, which allows it to grow and improve looking to the future.
Resilience is a term that we have been using for a long time now. We already had a major earthquake in 1997. In 2016, a major earthquake struck all of central Italy and also affected our territory, the territory where the University of Camerino lies. Because of this earthquake, we immediately lost a third of our facilities that were located in the historical center of the ancient city of Camerino. Yet we rolled up our sleeves. We got to work right away and made sure these courses could start up again right away. On November 7th, 10 days after the first quake, we managed to hold graduation ceremonies. The events we have experienced have certainly changed us and made us, in all likelihood, more resilient. It also made us aware of the difficulties that communities can find themselves in, all communities. The experience we gained during the 2016 earthquake certainly was one that we used for example in managing the pandemic.
Ad esempio nella gestione della pandemia. Il CHIP è un sogno.
CHIP is a dream. I had understood from the beginning, along with the team, along with the governing bodies, that there was a need to give a strong, important signal to the community. It was a sign that the university was staying in this territory and even investing in it and going to build the first facility of its kind in Italy.
Struttura che non era presente in Italia. Si sviluppa su 4
It is spread over 4 floors and contains over 44 laboratories. Laboratories where it will be possible to carry out research in the chemical, biological, pharmaceutical fields, and also in physics. It is the first building of this size that has been subjected to a magnitude 7 earthquake on the Richter scale.
Ad un finto sisma superiore al 7° grado della scala Richter.
The second important thing is that the research that will be carried out there will be carried out in very modern laboratories with very modern techniques, always aware of those issues that pose real challenges nowadays.
In questo momento sono delle vere e proprie sfide. Sentiamo parlare sempre.
We hear all the time about circular economy, biomaterials, materials with new functions, healthy food, food analysis. This type of research will find its home there.
Ricerche troveranno lì la loro casa.
Italy has a rich historical and artistic heritage. To build a modern Italy, it is important to start from the redevelopment of the buildings. A sustainable development also needs to involve the protagonists of the future, the young people.
The Green Building Council Italy is a non-profit association that was founded in 2008 by the autonomous province of Trento in Italy. It's a somewhat particular association. Firstly, it is non-profit association and therefore it has a cultural purpose.
Ha una finalità, diciamo, culturale. Secondo,
Second, it participates in the actors of the construction and real estate supply chain, and that is why we participate from materials products to architects and engineering, and to companies that carry out infrastructure works and real estate developers.
L'obiettivo e la visione.
The goal is the vision that we hold, in example, to transform the built environment to respond to the needs of people and the environment. Looking at Italy, seeing the many works of art, seeing the great culture that is unleashed from historical buildings that are almost everywhere, like churches, palaces, and amazing structures, makes one think that it is not only possible to demolish and rebuild, but it is also important to capitalize on these works.
Al contempo, anche valorizzare queste opere.
On this subject, our association both regionalized the most widely used environmental energy protocols in the world, those of the LEED family, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and produced proprietary protocols for residences, hotels, neighborhoods, condominiums, and many other types of buildings. It has also created the only protocol in the world today that addresses sustainable restoration. We have therefore combined the two aspects of heritage and sustainability. This is a very unique building, a building that was designed by the public administration and intended to be sustainable. It is the building with the highest score ever on the LEED for School rating system in Europe.
Sistema di rating LEED for School in Europa.
So the challenge was really to want to create a building where learning and teaching was facilitated. Therefore, an environment conducive to learning was the common thread that was then translated into technical elements that businesses were asked to respond to and were implemented. These elements of well-being include the thermo-hygrometric well-being inside the building, acoustic well-being to the extent that children in classrooms do not have to be separated, and aesthetic aspects in which this building seeks to create a link both with the surrounding environment, thanks also to all the window walls that face the external garden, and the internal glass walls that aim to create a sense of community. We are the only Italian project to be represented among the candidates at the COP in Glasgow.
Reconstruction can only be sustainable. This is basic. Think today of the largest construction site in Europe after World War II. This is the devastation that the earthquake produced in many small towns, villages, and mountain areas that already had previous problems. So what is the challenge? The challenge is to meet the needs of people and the environment. The challenge today is to regenerate a built environment, therefore containers, but also a community that is broken to generate a new quality of living, a new quality of the economy, and a new quality in homes.
In Italy, from north to south, from the islands to the mountains, there are many examples of cities and towns that, by natural predisposition and by choice, marry hospitality to their lifestyle, to their identity.
Hashtag WePesaro is a way for each of us to feel like leading characters in the promotion of our city. Territorial marketing is a fundamental element to promote the city, and the idea we have created is that of an inverted heart in the shape of a P. Basically, the P in Pesaro. It's a city to love because it's a city where you live well, with a very high quality of life. The city is a 20-minute bike ride from north to south, east to west. We are the most cyclable city in Italy because 1 out of 3 people from Pesaro uses a bicycle every day to go to work, to go to school, and to have fun. Before the crisis of 2009-2010, Pesaro was one of the most flourishing artisanal business areas in Italy, with 1 business for every 7 inhabitants. Then we had a heavy slump during the recession, but in the last few years, we are getting back on our feet, and now our core sectors are doing very well, even during the pandemic. The Bicipolitana bike route system has become a national model because we have shown that the bicycle can be our metro. Anytime we go anywhere in the world, we automatically ask ourselves some questions. What is the fastest, most comfortable, and least expensive way? Since the pandemic, we also now think about the safest way. In Pesaro, we have demonstrated that the bicycle is almost always the fastest, most comfortable, and least expensive means of transport. Ecological transition is being implemented in cities. It is being implemented in the change of lighting in our cities, in the urban change of our cities that can no longer consume new land but must transform the built environment. It is the accomplishment and the mobility that must be increasingly sustainable, less polluting, and more linked to the quality of life. It is accomplished in the production of energy that must be increasingly renewable and consumed as close to the sources of supply as possible. So it is clear that the country's entire international and national strategy will once again take shape with the cities as leaders. Italy has an artistic and cultural heritage that is unique in the world and has truly enviable creativity and genius. In addition, as we are now recovering, Italy has got back on track, and when Italy gets back on track, we saw this in the economic boom after the war, it can do some really extraordinary things. This is the right time to invest in Italy, and it is the right time to invest in medium-sized cities like Pesaro that focus particularly on culture as a key feature.